SoWizardPodcast.com, and it's May the 4th, Star Wars Day. Awesome. If you're like me, you don't need an excuse to celebrate Star Wars, but I'll take it and use it as an excuse anyway. I thought it'd be a good time to do a Star Wars talk with WallyHawk. So let's start with some Star Wars news. The biggest news today, and there's a lot of little things hitting the internet all over the place, a lot of good sales and stuff you can jump on, but the coolest bit of news we got today is that Taika Waititi is now making a feature-length Star Wars movie for theatrical release. This is absolutely the kind of thing that the Star Wars franchise needs. Taika Waititi is obviously a capable director. The guy's hilarious. He can kind of do it all. He even made Hitler a character in a movie that people loved. If he can pull that off, he can do anything. He took Thor Ragnarok, and Thor was a lot of people's least favorite Avenger, and Thor Ragnarok is one of the top favorites in the Marvel movies, and it's the favorite amongst people who don't even care about superheroes. Anyway, I don't think I need to tell you Taika Waititi's credentials. I'm really excited he's going to be doing a movie. He's been a big part of The Mandalorian, which is obviously like peak Star Wars, so all on board for that one. Speaking of The Mandalorian, on Disney Plus today, we got the first installment of a behind-the-scenes look docu-series on The Mandalorian. This one was focusing on the directors of the series, Jon Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, Taika Waititi, and some other people whose names I can't remember. I'm sorry, I like to do these off the top of the head to keep my energy up, and yes, if you're asking, this is me with my energy up. It was a really cool episode. It gives you a look at how different people approach the different things and how the creators, writers, directing tasks kind of break down episode by episode. Everyone gets a different bite at it where they can all kind of do it with a different flavor. It was very cool, really interesting. Definitely jump on that, whether you're a fan of filmmaking. Everyone watching a Star Wars talking YouTube video was a fan of The Mandalorian. If you haven't watched it yet, shame on you. Go do it right now. I don't care if you do the month free trial of Disney Plus and you don't want to pay for it. Watch the show. It's amazing. I'm really looking forward to the episode when they get to that new kind of digital set green screen replacement kind of thing they made for The Mandalorian, which let it look so huge and so epic without worrying about all the secrets being released online. In addition to Star Wars on Disney Plus, today saw the end of the Clone Wars animated series. The series started back, I believe it was 2008. It was pretty kid-centric to begin with, and it never became adult-centric. It wasn't like it was ever not for kids or kid-friendly, but it grew up a little bit and found its footing, and the relationships amongst the characters and how they told the war stories and paid homage to different things that influenced Star Wars over time, and just Dave Filoni's hand in all of this. Dave Filoni was one of the other directors in the Mandalorian series, but we're going to talk about him in a second. The show really became something special, and it was kind of the epitome of Star Wars for a whole new generation of Star Wars fans. Disney Plus decided they were going to bring back the Clone Wars. They dusted off some of the old scripts, old storylines that weren't quite finished up, and when it first started, it was kind of Clone Wars as it was, as usual. Focused a bit on the clones, focused a bit on a young Ahsoka, went back and forth, had a lot of levity to it, had a lot of things that really felt like contained episodes in a 2 or 3 episode arc, like the Bad Batch, for example. But then it would bring in old characters like the Clone Fives, who you kind of saw at different stages in his military career leading up to his capture and presumed death, and they brought him back. But what really hit home with this series, and even if you don't care about the Clone Wars cartoon show, even if you can't stand it, even if you don't want to watch it, you gotta watch these last few episodes with Ahsoka. It sees her coming back in and reuniting with Anakin after she walked away from the Jedi Order. You see the beginnings of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, from different points of view, and ever since 1977, from a certain point of view, has been kind of a Star Wars moniker, which was a clever way at covering up things that changed in continuity because it wasn't all written out there yet. But it is a big piece of Star Wars, and seeing different viewpoints and different interpretations on things was really cool. and it's George Lucas Star Wars. You go back to the old logo. They go back to the created by George Lucas. Dave Filoni's hands are still all in it, and again, Dave's going to get his own section, his own shout-out, because, man, this guy's amazing. But the emotional beats of Ahsoka meeting up with Anakin, and Obi-Wan having these suspicions about what Anakin's doing with Padme, and their relationship to the clones, and Ahsoka's relationship to Rex, and all the clones put on Ahsoka Tano war paint, and it brings Darth Maul back and introduces his criminal enterprises, and Darth Maul knew a bit of what was going on with Sidious's plans, and he kind of had bits and pieces of Order 66 and how he was going to take over, and there's a moment there where if Ahsoka listened to him or did things a little bit differently, the entire trajectory of the Star Wars story would have been different. Right down to the score, the action sequences, it's just astounding. Speaking of action sequences, Ray Park, who played Darth Maul in Episode 1, came back to do mocap on a lightsaber duel, which is one of the best lightsaber duels in all of Star Wars, live action, cartoons, whatever. It's just this phenomenal end to a great show that was really important to a lot of Star Wars fans, and like I said, even if you didn't watch this series so far, even if you're not a big fan, jump in at the end. You don't have to worry about spoilers because it butts right into and merges with Revenge of the Sith. The Star Wars story is told in so many different directions. This is one place where you don't have to worry about spoilers. It's a safe multi-episode arc to just watch in a bottle, and the quality really stands above where they could have released this as a 90-minute movie or whatever, or 80-minute movie, and it would have been worth the price of admission. So we talked about The Mandalorian, we talked about some Taika Waititi news, we talked about the Clone Wars cartoon on Disney+. One thread that goes through all of these things is Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni was an animator who kind of did storyboarding, and he was more just a fan. And it's this cool thing that kind of started when J.J. Abrams took over Force Awakens way back when, and everyone was saying in J.J. we trust and wherever that came from. We're kind of in the age of the fan film, and I mean that in a really good way. All these people who grew up loving Star Wars and other properties, but it's May the 4th. We're on a So Wizard podcast, Star Wars named podcast channel. Let's stick with Star Wars. Taika Waititi was another fan, and Dave Filoni is like the uber fan. He even says at one point in this first installment of the Making of Mandalorian documentary that he didn't think he was going to get the job working in Lucasfilm Animation, but he got to meet George Lucas, and he thought that when he was waiting in the endless line to see Revenge of the Sith when it hit theaters, he would at least have the nerd cred of being able to say he stood in the same room as George Lucas. And that was enough for the guy. Lucky for all of us, he got the job. Dave Filoni was absolutely instrumental in making the Clone Wars cartoon what it was, and he created Ahsoka Tano. She is a fan-favorite expanded universe character. She's going to be coming to live action. She is excellent in the animated series. She has novels written about her. She's fantastic. He's fantastic for making her, and he's fantastic for exploring Star Wars in this new, in-depth, but respectful way. He was a big hand in The Mandalorian. He was a big hand in the Clone Wars. I just wanted to take a second and thank the guy, and point out his hard work to fans everywhere. I'm sure I'm only scratching the surface on his contributions to things. He's a big-time writer, director, producer, creator. He loves Star Wars, and he's making more elements of Star Wars for us to love, and that's fantastic. Well, I think I've rambled long enough. It's time to get back to the Star Wars box set. The movies look and sound absolutely incredible in 4K. Oh, one last bit of news. If you are unaware, Episode 9 is now streaming on Disney+, 2 months early, another celebration for May the 4th, and another thank you to Disney for giving us something to do under the quarantine. But I gotta say, as much as I'm loving Disney Plus and all the original content on there, and the old stuff to revisit on there, they compress the hell out of the audio, the video's only so-so. Buying the box set as much as I didn't want to buy these Star Wars movies again, I gotta say it was worth it. They look and sound phenomenal. It's as close to theatrical experience as you're going to get again until they're re-released. I'm getting back to watching. You should get back to watching, reading, buy some comics, order some books. Audible audiobooks are fantastic for this. Do whatever you do for Star Wars. Today's the day for it. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Really helps us grow our audience. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get bonus episodes. Also, be sure to go to SoWizardPodcast.com for reviews, recommendation, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media, let us know how you're celebrating Star Wars Day. Thanks again.